everyone, and welcome. I'm your instructor, John Pomeroy, and this lesson is all about how to draw a realistic torso. Now, once again, we've covered the muscle groupings and skeletal structure in the previous lessons, so this will add more content to your knowledge about the muscles that are in the front and back portions of the torso. So it's going to be a really good class, so let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some simple shapes to create our torsos. I'm going to do the male torso on this side and female torso over here to show you the equivalent, how the muscle groupings relate to each of the forms. Do a half circle shape that represents the chest. I'll do a medial line through the center. Our neck would be right up about here. Shoulders tapering down from the neck area. And the half circle area would transition into a rectangular form. And then right about there would be the crotch area and then the hip area. So wider at the shoulders for the male, narrower shoulders on the female, but wider on the hips. Get the arms just kind of blocked out here. So on the male, we've got the deltoid muscle here. I think we've covered that in our previous lesson on arms, how to draw realistic arms. There's the neck. Coming up from the armpit, I'll go across to the next armpit. There's a division in the center. Here are the two muscles that make up the chest area. And they are called the pectoralis major. Pectoralis major. So right here, below the shoulders, are the pectoralis major muscles. Coming down from the armpit, see arm, diagonally coming down from the armpit is the serratus anterior muscle, right there. Serratus anterior. On either side. They flank the muscles on the abdomen, on the stomach, on either side. And right here, next to, underneath the serratus muscle, right here are the external obliques. External oblique muscles on either side of the stomach. I'll divide that in two, right where the hips start. There's a lower part of the stomach. Right here we see these divisions. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then lower, larger muscles. This whole area of muscles right there are the abdominals. abdominal muscles. So we have the abdominal muscles, the external obliques, serratus anterior, and then the pectoralis major. Those are main muscle groupings for male and female form. Now, over here on the female side, we have the deltoid muscles, the neckline, the pectoralis muscles, and they support the bust line. The abdominal muscles right there. The hip area, there's the crotch. Just quickly indicate the arm. The pectoralis muscle, pectoralis major would be right there. Bust line would be right there. Serratus muscle right there on either side. External oblique. Right there on either side, and then we have the abdominal muscles right there. And once again, the shoulders are more narrow on the female form, and the hip area is wider than the male. So we have a pectoralis major. We have the serratus muscles on either side of the abdominal muscles, or abs. We've got the external obliques. So we've got male and female. Let's go to the back side. Once again, I'll use a half circle shape and a rectangle for my basic torso. We have a half circle, rectangle shape, sloping shoulders, neckline, back side of the head, neckline on the male, shoulders. And I will just rough in arms and legs. Here's the back vertebrae. We have the scapula right there. Now we've tackled the muscle groupings in a previous lesson, so I am just going to map out the basics of the backside of the male form. There's the armpit, sides of the chest, torso, and hip area. This would be, we have the half round of the upper chest area and then a square for the actual torso. And below that square would be the gluteus maximus muscles. And there would be the backbone, the vertebrae. Just rough in the arm real quickly. Deltoid muscle. And on the female, there's the shoulder, neckline, armpit, rib cage, chest, arm. Right about there, that would be that box, that equivalent over here. This would be the torso, so the chest coming down into the torso, and then the hip area. And then right here would be the gluteal muscles, gluteus maximus. Now, so we have male, backside, and female form. In drawing these basic forms, once again, if you start out with, and I'm going to draw this now, 3/4 so you can understand the structure for both of these forms, male and female. A half circle, and then a square block. Here's a medial line. This becomes, if you can start with this structure, you can understand and figure out how to do any sort of position using this as the basis for your torso. And building off of this, you're simply extending. You've got your tapering tube arms, you got your shoulder, armpit, upper shoulder into the neck, sloping shoulder on the other side. You're building off of this structure. There's the armpit, there's your arm, clavicle would be right about there, your pectoralis muscles right here, abdominals. But I started out with a structure, and this will really help you in understanding and drawing all the different positions of the human form. Rib cage right in there. Gluteal muscle. So please consider that. You can use a tapering tube for the neck. You can use a oval or block for the head. You can use tapering shapes for the arms and constructing the arms. Tapering shapes for the legs. And that can help you construct the human form in any angle. Any angle. Let's try a form, a twisting torso based on these structures. I'm looking slightly up at this torso form. This is my half circle shape. I'm going to do kind of an S curve action that happens with this torso. So the front of the chest will be facing this way, and eventually the hip and legs will be facing in the opposite direction, just to kind of test this construction theory. So there's our chest area, our lower torso area, our hip area, and then we've got the leg that's twisted like that. We'll attach an arm right here, tubular shape for the arm, and a tubular shape, so we do a tubular shape for the neck up here, lifting the head, and then a tubular shape for the arm. Actually, it will be two tubular shapes because I want the arm to bend. And then a block for the hand. So I've got this very athletic pose, and I'm starting right here, and it's got a nice flow all the way through. Just shade these in. And you can just start to break everything down. You've got a basis now for all of the basic structures of this form. The abdominis muscles, the pectoral muscles, deltoid. It's all here. You've got it. A twisting form. So there's the male torso using block shapes and twisting it around. And then giving the definition on all the groupings of the muscles. We can see the abdominal muscles twisting and turning. We can see the chest cavity. And how all of this is constructed using those basic shapes. Gluteal muscles, thigh, knee, the old masters from the Renaissance knew these muscle groupings well, and so when they were doing their massive mural paintings, they would automatically know how they wanted these forms to be structured. You can see here how knowing some basic shapes can really help you in understanding how to twist the body into action poses. Now with a female form, it'll be basically, we can use a half circle. Sometimes I would prefer to use a tapering wedge for the upper chest area, and then a block for the waist area, and then a tapering form for the hip area. This hourglass shape kind of gives me the basis for the female form. Let's convert what we have just done with this male torso into a female torso. So what we want to do is we will use the wedge shape to find the upper body, and then a square shape for the abdominal area, and then hip area, tapering, curving tubes, tube shape for basically the arms and legs, thinner neck. There's the tapering tube for the arms, block for the hand, tapering tube for the arm on this side. There'd be the deltoid muscle and the arm right there. So we've converted that over to the female proportions using very simple shapes, using a wedge shape, which is basically a square that has been tapered on one end, and then we have a block shape for the abdominal areas. And for the hip areas, we can almost use the same wedge shape for the lower hip area. So chest, stomach, hip. Right there would be the inseam or the crotch area. And the arms tapering from that, head. So we have the pectoral muscles up here. We've got the neck muscles. We can rough in a head that's lifted up. Bottom of the nose, the mouth, ear, throat area. Pinched in the back because the head is raised and there's a compression that's happening right there. Deltoid muscle. Top portion of the chest, armpit, arm, elbow. Right here would be the bust line would come out. Transition into the armpit of that arm right there. Deltoid and arm. The lower chest area, abdominal area. You can feel that twist happening. Upper rear, rib cage area. Abdominal area. And then legs. And there we have the female form. Male form, female form. Using some basic building blocks to draw the male and female torso. Hope you enjoyed that lesson. That was a lot of material to cover, and I know that it's going to come in very handy for your assignment. What I'd like you to do is practice drawing torsos. If you were to go to any sporting events or any athletic events where you can see athletes competing and you can witness what's happening with the body while it's exercising and moving and running and jumping. That would really help you. I'd love for you to sketch the torso, male and female, in all different positions. And try to pick out difficult positions to draw, because the more proficient you get at understanding foreshortening and perspective, the better artist you will be. So that's your assignment. And make sure that you do a variety of different poses, okay? That's very, very important. And I look forward to seeing you at my next lesson. Bye-bye.